Assalamualaikum to lecturer and panel. Our group will present a final year project with title Classification of Faculty of Computer and Mathematical Science Student Entrepreneurial Intention in UiTM Negeri Sembilan Branch Seremban Campus. Our supervisor in this final year project is Madam Nur Alina binti Azlan. There are 3 members in this group. My name is Nazifa binti Rosali.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Akilah Alia binti Ruslan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Nuraslinda binti Hassan.
Malaysia has been affected by the pandemic of COVID-19 in 2020. Since then, the unemployment rate has been increasing because there were no company wanting to hire new full-time workers. The Department of Statistics Malaysia DOSM state that the statistic of unemployment graduate in 2019 was 117.3 thousand persons and has increased 5.5% from 2018, which is 161.3 thousand persons. The Star in 2017 report that the Higher Education Ministry target 15% of the students in Malaysia to establish or joint venture in entrepreneurship. It challenged themselves to build a strong profile. In the future, entrepreneurship should be a must-take course in university as a basic need to start a business. Thus, the purpose of this study is to determine the factor affecting of entrepreneurial intention among students in UiTM Negeri Sembilan Branch Seremban Campus associated with the attitude, subjective norm and perceived behavior control.
Problem statement. Entrepreneurship among students has been increasing despite the cost of that they are taking in university. This is because they seem to know that being an entrepreneur gives them more benefits. There are various entrepreneurships fields such as cosmetics, supplements, food and beverage that they could involve with. There were also probably many reasons that triggered their interest, especially during COVID-19 outbreak. The Ministry of Higher Education (MOHE) stated in Eduspira that 75,000 out of 300,000 fresh graduates were expected to be unemployed in 2020 due to economic downturn caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Regarding of this matter, the determinant of entrepreneurial intentions among students need to be compared based on family income level in order to see if there is any significant difference between the family income level with the intention on becoming an entrepreneur, because during COVID-19, their family income level are not stable. Other than that, students will also be classified into 2 different categories, which were having entrepreneurial intention or not, to understand how determinants lead to their entrepreneurial intentions.
There is 2 research objectives for the study. The first objective is to compare the determinant of entrepreneurial intentions among students based on the family income level. And the second objective is to classify the students' entrepreneurial intentions based on the determinants. The research hypothesis for the study is there is a difference of determinant of entrepreneurial intentions among students based on the family income level. Let's proceed to the significance of the study. There are 3 benefits that can be gained from the study. The first is the benefit to the society. Young entrepreneurs play an important role in economy. Thus, if the students have intentions to become entrepreneurs, it may be a great contribution to the economy of Malaysia. Second benefit is to the lecturers and universities. Lecturers can enhance teaching method to attract students' interest. Lecturers and university management can also use all the factors to revise the teaching and course plan to optimize student skills and abilities in entrepreneurship. The next benefit is to the students and researchers. Students may acknowledge the factors that lead to entrepreneurial intentions and try to use that factors to gain side income. It can help their study cost and also gain experience, even they are busy studying. Next is the scope and limitation. The scope for the study is Faculty of Computer and Mathematical Sciences students in UiTM Negeri Sembilan Branch Seremban Campus. The limitation is, first, difficult to reach respondents due to online learning. Since there is no direct contact between the researchers and the respondents, it was hard to reach the respondents. We only distribute online questionnaires. Next is short time frame. Since this study was conducted around 6 months, so it might lead to inaccurate result and low response rate. The response rate for this study is only 50.50%.
This is the theoretical framework in the study and it is adapted from ASJAN in 1991. The independent variables are attitude, subjective norm and perceived behavior control, while the dependent variable is entrepreneurial intention. The target population were all students from the Faculty of Computer and Mathematical Science in UiTM Negeri Sembilan Branch Seremban campus. The table shows the number of students in each course in 2021.
We move to sampling design and sample. We study using one-stage cluster sampling techniques. First step is by specifying each course in Faculty of Computer and Mathematical Science. Then, 2 out of 6 clusters will be selected randomly from the population using table 37 random numbers. Each cluster was assigned one random number, which is CS241 with 1, CS248 random number 2, CS247 number 3, CS249 number 4, CS290 number 5, and CS112 number 6. Next, from column 1, the random numbers selected were 1 and 5, which represented CS241 and CS290 respectively. The total samples for this study were the combination of 345 students of CS241 and 51 students from CS290, which is in total 399 students for the sample for this study. Next is data collection method. The researcher distributed online questionnaires to collect data from research samples. They are using online platforms such as WhatsApp and email to reach the respondents and give the questionnaires that were created on Google Form. They obtained the sampling from the Academic Affairs Division (BHA) of University Technology Mara, Seremban 3 branch. In this data collection method, there are advantages and the disadvantages. The advantages in distributed online questionnaire is it conserves and reduces budget. It's also less time and energy consumptions in order to collect data from respondents. Online questionnaire also did not require a lot of procedures to be taken. They also put less pressure on respondents to answer because they could answer the questionnaire during their leisure time. But the disadvantages is each sample had a different understanding about the questionnaire. This is because there was no researcher to explain the questionnaire to the respondent regarding the question or anything that the respondent do not understand. And the last advantages, there are possible cooperation problems occurred because there may be selected sample that ignore the questionnaire given to them, which will lead to low response rates, resulting in lack of respondent, which will result in unreliable data for this
Part A for this instrument was for gathering information about the demographic profile. Part B was to obtain the dimension and measure level of entrepreneurial intentions among students in UiTM Negeri Sembilan Branch Seremban campus. Part C contained questions that was used to measure the determinants of entrepreneurial intentions among students, divided into 3 distinct sections consisting of diverse questions.
Method of analysis. The first method of analysis is MANOVA analysis. MANOVA analysis is the extension of the ANOVA. Johnson and Wichen 2007 state that MANOVA was used to compare the difference of the means between 2 or more sample vectors in a population. The purpose of MANOVA analysis is to determine whether the group of independent variables with one another has an effect on the dependent variables.
The second method of analysis in this study is discriminant analysis. Based on Verma in 2012, discriminant analysis is a multivariate statistical technique used for classifying a set of observations into a predefined group. The purpose of discriminant analysis is to determine the predictor variable on the basis of which group can be determined.
Evaluation of assumption model. In this section, the evaluation of discriminant function will be discussed. Misclassification rate indicates incorrect prediction. It is better to have low misclassification rate. An acceptable misclassification rate can be referred to the cost of misclassification. If the cost of misclassification is high, thus a model is required to have a low misclassification rate. Misclassification rate can be obtained by subtracting the correct classification rate with 100. An acceptable classification rate is 80%. Thus, it indicates that the maximum value for misclassification rate should be 20%. Reliability test. Reliability test is to test whether the set of items in the questionnaire is reliable or not. Cronbach alpha can be used to test the reliability. Cronbach alpha is a measurement of skill reliability that measures how close a set of items are as a group. A closer value to 1 indicates that the set of items is close. If the set of items has low reliability, it is advisable to drop the set of items from the model. Based on the result shown below, there is no items should be dropped. This is because all the value of Cronbach alpha is more than 0.8, which represents that all of.
In the description of respondent, it has gender, race, family, income class, and intention to become an entrepreneur. The total sample in the study is 200 respondents. From the table, we can see that the majority of the respondents were female and the Bumiputra has 199 respondents. Majority of the students come from a family income of M40 and there were 119 respondents who had intention of to become an entrepreneur. This part of the study used mean value to identify the preferences of respondents. From the chart, the highest proportion is to work in the government organization with mean 3.12. The second highest was to work as a freelancer with mean 2.94, followed by wanting to create own businesses with mean 2.80. And the least was to work as a politician with mean of 1.48. Multivariate analysis of variance result. Before proceeding with MANOVA analysis, all of the assumptions must be met. The first assumption is the dependent variable, which are mean of attitude, subjective norm, and perceived behavior control is continuous. Second, the independent variable consists of 3 categories, which are B40, M40, and 320. Third, the respondents in each family income level are different in each group. 4. The sample size is 200 students. 5. There are no multivariate outlier in this data by using chi-square plot. 6. By using Shapiro-Wilk test of normality, all of the mean of dependent variable greater than 0.05, then the data is normal, except for the mean attitude of B40 and M40 because they are less than 0.05. 7. The scatterplot matrix shows that each pair of mean of dependent variable has a linear relationship with each group of family income class. 8. The equality of covariance of family income level is equal because the significant value is greater than 0.05. And last, there is no multicollinearity in this data because the VIF value is between 1 to 10. Then the MANOVA analysis can be done after all of the assumptions met. From the table, P value is higher than 0.05, so there is no significant difference in family income level on the determinants of the entrepreneurial intention. The hypothesis 1 was rejected because failed to have a significant difference. This result is consistent with study conducted by Ainkabi in 2013 and Trikawala in 2011, which found no significant relationship between family income and a student entrepreneurial intention. The insignificant difference in determinant is possibly because of the reason of students want to be an entrepreneur or has interest in business.
Discriminant analysis is used to achieve the second objective, which is to classify entrepreneurial intentions based on the determinant. Before proceeding with the discriminant analysis, there are several assumptions that should be satisfied. The first assumption is each population must be multivariate normal. This assumption can be checked by constructing a chi-square plot. Based on the chi-square plot obtained, each population is approximately multivariate normal since all the observations lie around the 45-degree lines. The second assumption is each of the independent variable is normally distributed. A normal QQ plot has been used to test the assumption. Based on the normal QQ plot shown, all the observations lie around the 45-degree line. Thus, it indicates that this assumption has been made. The next assumption is all variables have linear and homoscedastic relationship. Since the p-value of box M test is 0.245, which is more than 0.05, it indicates that the covariance matrices of the determinants are equal. Thus, this assumption has been made. The next assumption is dependent variable is a true dichotomy. This assumption also has been met since the dependent variable consists only 2 values, which are having no entrepreneurial intentions and having entrepreneurial intentions. Furthermore, another assumption is the group must be mutually exclusive. Since every subject of this study belongs to only one group, thus the assumption also has been met. Next assumption is all cases should be independent. The data of the study did not use correlated data. Thus, all cases were independent. The next assumption is sample size of both groups should not differ to a great extent. Since the ratio for this sample size of the study is 6T4-4, which are 60% of the respondents had entrepreneurial intentions, while 40% of the respondents did not have entrepreneurial intention. That the assumption has been met. Next, sample size must be sufficient. This study consists of 3 independent variables, and 6 times of independent variables should be 18. Considering that the sample size of this study is 200 of respondents, it is more than 6 times of independent variables. Thus, the assumption has been met. The next assumption is no independent variables should have zero variability in either of the groups formed by the dependent variable. This can be looked from variance value for each of independent variable. Since all the variance value for each independent variable is not zero, it indicates that all the independent variables had no zero variability. Thus, this assumption has been met. The last assumption is outliers should not exist in the data. The assumption can be tested by constructing a chi-square plot for whole population. Since all the observations in the chi-square plot is lying around the 45-degree line, thus this assumption has been met. As all the assumptions have been satisfied, thus a discriminant analysis could be done. Let's proceed with structure matrix. Structure matrix shows the correlation of each variable with each discriminant function. It can also be served as a factor loading. Value of factor loading that is less than 0.3 should be dropped from the model. Based on the output shown, the value of factor loading is more than 0.3, thus there is no variable that should be dropped from the model. Furthermore, canonical discriminant function coefficients. The discriminant function can be constructed by using the values shown in the table above. Thus, discriminant function will be sec equal to negative 5.812 plus 0.930 attitudes plus 0.370 subjective norms plus 0.562 perceived behavior control. Next is eigenvalue and canonical correlation. Larger eigenvalue indicates that the function can differentiate the groups better. The canonical correlation is to measure the relationship between the discriminant function and dependent variable. By calculating the square value of canonical correlation, the percentage of variance explained in the dependent variable is approximately 29% of the variation in the two groups. Now let's proceed with Weeks lambda and chi-square test. Weeks lambda test is conducted to provide the proportion of unexplained variance by the model. The lesser the value, the better is the discriminant model. Chi-square test is to test the significance of Weeks lambda test. Based on the output, the model is considered to have a weak function. This is because there is 71.3% of variability is not explained by the model. However, even the discriminant model have a weak function, it is still possible to use the model. Functions at group centroids. One of the purposes of running discriminant analysis is to develop a decision model for classifying cases into categories. Thus, it is a need to find the midpoint between the two groups. Based on the output shown, the midpoint is calculated to be negative 0.118. Classification matrix. Classification matrix is an output that shows the correct and incorrect classification of cases. Based on the output of the study, the correctly classified cases is 151. Thus, the classification rate will be 75%. And acceptable accuracy is 80%. Thus, this model is not a good model since the classification rate is below 80%. However, the low classification rate may be caused by having a small sample size.
Last and foremost is conclusion. From the MANOVA analysis, there is no significant difference between family income levels to determine students' entrepreneurial intention, since significant value P equal to 0.678, which is higher than alpha 0.05. This means students who are willing and determined to be an entrepreneur will try all possible ways and learn more knowledge about entrepreneurships to become an entrepreneur regardless of their low-income families. Study in year 2016 states, if other factors are added along with the family income level, the result might be affected such as gender, family experience with business and educated level. So, next we move to conclusion for discriminant analysis. Nevertheless, the MANOVA analysis, the discriminant analysis also resulted as not a good model to classify the determinants, because there is only 75.5% of students being successfully classified into their respective groups. But to assume a good model, the percentage of classification rate should be more than 80%. Next, despite it is not a good model, discriminant analysis for this study resulted that there is no variable should be dropped from the model. Attitude and perceived behavior control show high discriminant towards entrepreneurial intentions since both are above 0.5 values. So this determines that the students will and confident to be young endeavor and start on business to become successful entrepreneur give a big effect in determining their entrepreneurial intentions than from their family and friends supported. Future recommendations. Therefore, academicians and UiTM Seremban campus authorities should pave different ways to nurture entrepreneurial intentions along with social skills and advanced knowledge for students to become young entrepreneurs, especially after the pandemic. So, in this way, the student can open their own business either during online distance learning or after their studies. Since both objectives in this study was not successfully achieved, so for the future recommendations, studies should increase the sample size. Besides, the length of the time frame of the study should be more than 6 months, since it takes more time to receive replies and feedback from the target samples. Other than that, the same study can be imitated to a different location and target. The result may vary, depends on the demographic profile. Researcher also can use a different method that is suitable other than MANOVA and discriminant analysis, such as logistic regression analysis. In a nutshell, it is hard to recover from the unemployment rate and economic deflation caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, but instead of regretting the situation, it is better to focus on producing more promising students, especially in entrepreneurship, in action to counter the problem by identifying the factor and determinants that can help nurturing entrepreneurial intentions among the students.